Before we dive into our story, a warm welcome to all our listeners here at WooEnglish, where we learn English through stories. Today, we have a fascinating tale that not only enriches your English language skills, but also provides insights into a significant period of American history. We strive to present this story with clear and simple sentences to make your learning experience enjoyable and effective. If you find this story helpful and engaging, please don't forget to press the like button as a way to reward us. Your likes and comments are not just appreciated. They motivate us to create more content tailored for English learners like you. So, sit back, relax, and let's embark on this learning journey together. And remember, your feedback is always welcome. So please leave us a comment sharing your thoughts or how we can make your learning experience even better. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Early Years. Lyndon B. Johnson, known as LBJ, was born on August 27, 1908, in a small farmhouse in Stonewall, Texas. His family's life was simple, filled with hard work and close connections to the land and community. This chapter explores Lyndon's early years, highlighting the humble beginnings that shaped his ambitious journey. Lyndon was the oldest of 5 children. His father, Samuel Ely Johnson, Jr., was a farmer and a local politician who believed strongly in helping people. His mother, Rebecca Baines Johnson, was a kind and educated woman who loved to read. She taught Lyndon and his siblings the importance of education and hard work from a very young age. The Johnson family did not have much money. Their farm in the Texas Hill Country was beautiful, but life there was not easy. They grew their own food and raised cattle. Lyndon learned to work on the farm at a young age, helping to take care of the animals and the crops. These experiences taught him the value of hard work and perseverance. Despite their financial struggles, Lyndon's parents believed in the power of education. They wanted their children to have opportunities they never had. Lyndon's mother taught him to read before he even started school. She would read stories to him and his siblings, sparking Lyndon's lifelong love for learning. School for Lyndon was a small, one-room schoolhouse. He walked miles to get there every day. Lyndon was a curious student, always eager to learn more. His teachers noticed his determination and often encouraged him to speak in front of the class. These early experiences helped Lyndon become a confident speaker. Lyndon's father, Samuel, often took him to political meetings and speeches. Samuel's involvement in politics made a big impression on young Lyndon. He saw how his father worked to make life better for people in their community. These moments planted the seeds of Lyndon's future in public service. However, life was not always easy for the Johnson family. There were times when they struggled to make ends meet. Lyndon saw the effects of these struggles on his family and neighbors. He understood the challenges of rural life and the importance of community support. These early experiences deeply influenced his beliefs and ambitions. As Lyndon grew older, he became more involved in his community. He took on odd jobs to help his family. He worked as a farmhand, a shoe shiner, and even as a teacher's assistant. These jobs taught him about different people's lives and hardships. Lyndon was determined to make a difference. One of Lyndon's most significant experiences as a young man was his time teaching in Cotulla, Texas. After high school, he took a job as a teacher in a small Mexican-American school. Many of his students came from poor families. They did not have books or even proper clothes for school. Lyndon saw the impact of poverty on education. He worked hard to make his classroom a place of hope and opportunity. He even used his own money to buy supplies for his students. This experience deepened Lyndon's commitment to education and equality. Through all these experiences, Lyndon's early years in Stonewall, Texas, shaped him. The rural life, his family's financial struggles, and his early education built the foundation of his future ambitions. He learned the value of hard work, the importance of education, and the power of helping others. These lessons stayed with him throughout his life, guiding him as he rose to become one of the most influential leaders in American history. Lyndon B. Johnson's journey from a small farmhouse in Texas to the White House is a story of ambition, hard work, and a deep desire to make a difference. His early years taught him about the challenges and possibilities of life. They showed him the importance of community, education, and public service. These lessons would later inspire his efforts to improve the lives of all Americans. As we explore the rest of Lyndon's life, we will see how these humble beginnings influenced his path to becoming a champion for civil rights and a leader in American history. Chapter 2: Stepping into Public Service. Lyndon B. Johnson, known to many as LBJ, was a man whose life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. After his early years in the quiet, rural settings of Stonewall, Texas, Lyndon found himself at a crossroads. He had witnessed firsthand the struggles of the people around him, and deep inside, a fire was kindled, a desire to make a difference. This chapter of his life marks the beginning of a journey into public service, a path that would eventually lead him to the highest office in the United States. Lyndon's journey into public service began in the small town of Cotulla, Texas, where he took up a position as a teacher. Cotulla was a humble place, and the students Lyndon taught were mostly Mexican-American children from impoverished backgrounds. The experience was eye-opening for Lyndon. He saw the harsh realities his students faced: poverty, discrimination, and a lack of opportunity. The children had dreams and potential, but their circumstances limited their chances for a better future. Lyndon often reflected on his own upbringing in Stonewall, where his family struggled financially, and how education had become his gateway to opportunities. He recognized that education could be the key to unlocking a brighter future for his students. He dedicated himself to his teaching role, not just educating the children academically, but also instilling in them a sense of hope and the belief that they could achieve more. In his classroom, Lyndon was more than a teacher. He was a mentor, a role model, and, at times, a friend. He initiated after-school programs to further engage his students, teaching them public speaking, debate, and the importance of education. Lyndon's teaching style was interactive and engaging, making learning fun and accessible for all his students. He wanted them to see beyond the confines of Cotulla, to dream of possibilities that lay beyond their small town. Lyndon's genuine concern for his students went beyond the classroom. He saw the disparities in education and resources that affected his students and their families. This realization sparked in him a deeper interest in politics and public policy. Lyndon believed that through political action, he could bring about the changes needed to improve the lives of people like his students. He started to envision a future where he could make a difference on a larger scale. The young teacher's ambitions were fueled further by his time at Texas State Teachers College, where he had previously studied. There, he had been exposed to political ideas and the workings of government, which intrigued him. Lyndon's experiences as a student leader had given him a taste of leadership and its potential to instigate change. These experiences, combined with his teaching stint in Kotula, solidified his resolve to enter public service. Lyndon's decision to step into the realm of politics was driven by a simple yet powerful motive: to serve and uplift the communities that had been overlooked and underserved. He began by taking small steps, participating in local politics, and using his voice to advocate for education and social reforms. His early political engagements were a learning ground where he honed his skills in persuasion, negotiation, and the art of politics. Lyndon's transition from a dedicated teacher to a budding politician was marked by his deep empathy for the underprivileged and his belief in the power of education as a tool for social change. His journey into public service was not just a career choice, it was a calling. He carried with him the lessons learned in Kotula, the aspirations of his students, and a vision for a better, more equitable society. As Lyndon B. Johnson's story unfolds, it becomes clear that his early steps into public service were guided by a genuine desire to improve the lives of others. His experiences as a teacher in Kotula were transformative, shaping his understanding of the challenges faced by the marginalized and fueling his passion for public service. These formative years laid the foundation for Lyndon's political career, where he would continue to champion the causes of education and social justice. Lyndon's story is a testament to the impact that one individual can have when driven by compassion and a steadfast commitment to service. His journey from the classrooms of Kotula to the corridors of power serves as an inspiration, reminding us of the power of education, the importance of public service, and the potential within each of us to make a difference in the world. Chapter 3. The political climb begins. Lyndon B. Johnson, once a dedicated teacher with a passion for changing lives through education, found himself on a new path that promised broader horizons. His journey into the heart of American politics began modestly, but was driven by the same unwavering commitment to public service that had marked his early career. This chapter tells the story of Lyndon's transition from a local educator to a national political figure, highlighting the first significant steps of his political climb. Lyndon's foray into the complex world of politics began in Washington, D.C., as a congressional secretary for Congressman Richard Clayburgh. This role, though seemingly minor, was his gateway into the corridors of power. In Washington, Lyndon was exposed to the inner workings of the U.S. government and the intricate dance of politics. It was here, in the bustling capital, that Lyndon's political acumen began to sharpen. As a congressional secretary, Lyndon quickly distinguished himself through his hard work, dedication, and an innate ability to understand and navigate the political landscape. He was not just a bystander, he was a keen observer, learning the nuances of legislative processes, building relationships, and identifying the levers of power that could be used to effect change. His days were long and the work was challenging, but Lyndon saw each task as an opportunity to learn and grow. Lyndon's time in Washington coincided with the Great Depression, a period of significant economic hardship that affected millions of Americans. Witnessing the impact of the Depression and the government's efforts to address it further fueled Lyndon's desire to play a more active role in shaping policies that could improve people's lives. He saw the potential for meaningful change through legislative action and was determined to be a part of it. The turning point in Lyndon's political career came in 1937, when he decided to run for Congress. The sudden death of a Texas congressman had triggered a special election, and Lyndon seized the opportunity to step onto the political stage himself. His campaign was vigorous and characterized by his now signature determination and persuasive charm. Lyndon traveled extensively throughout his district, speaking directly to the voters, listening to their concerns, and sharing his vision for a better future. Lyndon's efforts paid off when he won the election, becoming a U.S. congressman at the age of 29. It was an impressive feat for someone who had only recently transitioned from a local teacher to a political aide. As a congressman, Lyndon was committed to making a tangible difference in the lives of his constituents. He focused on a wide range of issues, from rural electrification and public works projects to military preparedness and national defense. One of Lyndon's earliest and most significant legislative efforts was his work on the Rural Electrification Act. He understood the transformative power of electricity, how it could bring light, efficiency, and progress to the rural communities similar to the one he had grown up in. Lyndon fought hard to extend electrical power to the countryside, believing that it would improve living standards, boost economic development, and bring the modern world to the doorsteps of rural Americans. Lyndon's advocacy for rural electrification and other social welfare initiatives began to earn him recognition and respect among his peers and constituents. He was seen as a tireless worker, a skilled negotiator, and a politician who genuinely cared about the welfare of the people he represented. Lyndon's ability to connect with both the powerful and the powerless, to speak the language of the people while navigating the complexities of legislation, set him apart. The early years of Lyndon's congressional career were marked by his growing influence in Washington. He was not content to simply go along with the status quo. He sought to shape it, to mold it into something better. His efforts were not always met with success, and the challenges of politics were many, but Lyndon remained undeterred. He believed in the possibility of change, in the power of government to do good, and in his role as a catalyst for that change. Lyndon's political climb was a testament to his ambition, his vision, and his unwavering commitment to service. From the humble beginnings in Stonewall, Texas, to the halls of Congress in Washington, D.C., Lyndon B. Johnson's journey was a reflection of his dedication to the ideals of democracy and his belief in the potential of every individual to contribute to the betterment of society. Chapter 4: War and Marriage. In the life of Lyndon B. Johnson, two significant events would profoundly shape his future: his brief but impactful service in World War II and his marriage to Claudia Alta Taylor, affectionately known as Lady Bird. These experiences not only influenced his personal life, but also his political trajectory, offering insights into the character and priorities of the man who would one day lead America. As the world found itself embroiled in the turmoil of World War II, Lyndon felt a strong sense of duty to serve his country. Despite his rising political career, he insisted on participating in the war effort, showcasing his patriotism and commitment to public service. In 1941, Lyndon was commissioned as a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Naval Reserve, stepping into a new role that would test his leadership and resolve in the face of global conflict. Lyndon's military service was brief but significant. He was assigned to inspect shipyard facilities in Texas and later served in the South Pacific, where he participated in a bombing mission over enemy territory. Although his time at war was short, the experience left a lasting impression on him. It reinforced his understanding of the sacrifices made by soldiers and their families, deepening his commitment to supporting veterans and their needs. His military service would later influence his legislative efforts, particularly in areas related to national defense and veteran affairs. Parallel to his military endeavors, Lyndon's personal life was taking a pivotal turn. In 1934, he met Claudia Alta Taylor, a young woman from Karnak, Texas, who would become the love of his life and an integral part of his political journey. Lady Bird, as she was known, was not only a supportive partner but also a savvy political advisor and a stabilizing force in Lyndon's life. Their courtship was whirlwind and intense, with Lyndon proposing marriage on their first date. Despite the suddenness of the proposal, there was a deep connection between them. Lady Bird saw in Lyndon a man of ambition and complexity, someone who shared her values and her desire to make a meaningful contribution to the world. After a brief courtship, they married on November 17, 1934, in a small ceremony in San Antonio, Texas. The marriage of Lyndon and Lady Bird was a partnership in every sense. Lady Bird's calm demeanor balanced Lyndon's often intense and demanding personality. She was his confidant, his most trusted advisor, and a constant presence in his political life. Lady Bird's intelligence, grace, and understanding of the political landscape were invaluable assets to Lyndon as he navigated the complexities of his career. She played a critical role in his campaigns, managing logistics, engaging with voters, and providing moral support. Together, Lyndon and Lady Bird faced the challenges and triumphs of public life. Their partnership was tested by the demands of political campaigns, the pressures of legislative duties, and the scrutiny of public life. Yet, their commitment to each other and to their shared goals remained unshaken. Lady Bird's influence on Lyndon was profound, encouraging him to pursue his ambitions while also reminding him of the importance of compassion, kindness, and humility. The war and his marriage marked a period of growth and introspection for Lyndon. These experiences deepened his understanding of leadership, sacrifice, and the significance of personal relationships. They also highlighted the importance of partnership, both in marriage and in public service, reinforcing the idea that behind every successful person is a team of supporters who share in their struggles and successes. As Lyndon's political career continued to ascend, the lessons learned during this time would serve as a foundation for his future endeavors. The resilience and determination he displayed in the face of adversity, the deep sense of duty instilled by his military service, and the unwavering support of his wife, Lady Bird, would all play critical roles in shaping the leader he would become. Chapter 5: The Road to the Senate. The journey of Lyndon B. Johnson to the United States Senate is a tale of ambition, determination, and political savvy. This chapter of his life story unfolds in the post-World War II era, a time when America was on the brink of monumental change, and Lyndon was poised to play a pivotal role in shaping the nation's future. After serving in Congress, where he championed the needs of his constituents and made significant strides in legislation, Lyndon set his sights on a more ambitious goal: the United States Senate. The Senate was a place of power and prestige, where national policies were debated and the course of American history was often determined. For Lyndon, winning a seat in the Senate was not just a step up in his political career, it was a chance to influence the country on a grander scale. The road to the Senate, however, was fraught with challenges. Texas politics were notoriously competitive and often rough, with candidates engaging in intense campaigns to win the support of voters. Lyndon faced stiff competition from well-established politicians who were also vying for the Senate seat. but he was undeterred. Armed with a deep understanding of the political landscape and a burning desire to make a difference, Lyndon launched into one of the most vigorous campaigns of his career. Lyndon's campaign strategy was multifaceted. He traveled tirelessly across Texas, reaching out to voters in towns and cities, large and small. He spoke passionately about the issues that mattered to Texans: economic prosperity, national security, and social welfare. Lyndon's charisma and ability to connect with people shone through in these encounters. He listened to their concerns, shared his vision, and promised to fight for their interests in the Senate. One of the hallmarks of Lyndon's campaign was his innovative use of media. Recognizing the growing influence of radio and print advertising, he leveraged these platforms to extend his reach. His messages were crafted to resonate with the everyday Texan, emphasizing his humble beginnings, his achievements in Congress, and his commitment to public service. This strategic use of media played a crucial role in building his popularity and expanding his support base. Lyndon also understood the importance of building a strong campaign team. He surrounded himself with talented and loyal aides who shared his vision and worked tirelessly to advance his candidacy. Together, they orchestrated a campaign that was both strategic and relentless, covering every corner of the state and leaving no stone unturned in their quest for votes. As the campaign progressed, it became clear that Lyndon was a formidable contender. His energy and dedication, coupled with his persuasive oratory skills, made him stand out among the candidates. However, the road to victory was not easy. The campaign was marked by intense rivalries, with opponents launching attacks in an attempt to undermine Lyndon's credibility and appeal. But he remained focused, countering the challenges with grace and continuing to press forward with his message of hope and progress. The climax of the campaign came on Election Day, a moment of high tension and anticipation. Lyndon, along with his supporters, waited anxiously for the results. When the votes were finally counted, it was clear. Lyndon B. Johnson had won the election, securing his place in the United States Senate. The victory was a testament to Lyndon's hard work, strategic thinking, and deep connection with the people of Texas. It marked a significant milestone in his political career, catapulting him into the national spotlight and setting the stage for his future contributions to American society. As a newly elected senator, Lyndon wasted no time in making his mark. He brought to the Senate the same energy, determination, and vision that had characterized his campaign. From his very first days in office, he worked tirelessly to address the issues he had campaigned on, advocating for policies that would promote economic growth, strengthen national defense, and improve the welfare of the American people. Lyndon's journey to the Senate was more than just a political triumph. It was a reflection of his unwavering commitment to public service and his belief in the power of government to effect positive change. Through his perseverance and dedication, he had risen from the humble beginnings of a Texas teacher to a prominent position on the national stage. And as he embarked on this new chapter of his life, Lyndon was ready to face the challenges ahead with the same resolve and passion that had brought him this far. The road to the Senate had been long and arduous, but for Lyndon B. Johnson, it was just the beginning. Ahead lay even greater challenges and opportunities to shape the future of America. His story reminds us that with determination, hard work, and a commitment to serving others, it is possible to overcome obstacles and achieve remarkable success. Lyndon's legacy as a senator would be defined by his contributions to the nation, his leadership in times of crisis, and his enduring impact on American politics and society. Chapter 6. Master of the Senate. Lyndon B. Johnson, known as LBJ, stepped into the United States Senate with a vision to lead and a determination to make a significant impact. His journey from the humble beginnings in Texas to the corridors of power in Washington had prepared him for this moment. As he took his place in the Senate, Lyndon was ready to use his skills and passion for public service to shape the future of America. Lyndon's rise to prominence in the Senate was not immediate. It required patience, strategy, and an innate understanding of the political landscape. The Senate was a place of tradition and slow change, where seniority often dictated influence. However, Lyndon was not deterred by these challenges. Instead, he saw them as opportunities to innovate and excel. One of the first things Lyndon did was to learn everything he could about his fellow senators. He believed that understanding people was key to influencing them. Lyndon made it his mission to know each senator's interests, concerns, and ambitions. He used this knowledge to build relationships, forging alliances across party lines, and breaking down barriers that had previously hindered progress. Lyndon's ability to connect with people was matched by his mastery of the legislative process. He immersed himself in the rules and procedures of the Senate, quickly becoming an expert. This expertise allowed him to navigate the complexities of Senate operations, finding ways to expedite bills that were important to him and his vision for America. As Lyndon's influence grew, so did his leadership roles. He was appointed to key committees, where he had a direct impact on shaping legislation on a wide range of issues, from education and healthcare to civil rights and national security. Lyndon's commitment to these causes was driven by his belief in the power of government to improve the lives of ordinary Americans. Lyndon's tenure in the Senate was marked by his leadership of the Democratic Party in the Senate. As the majority leader, he transformed the role into one of significant power and influence. Lyndon's leadership style was unique. He was both a forceful leader and a skilled negotiator, known for his ability to persuade, cajole, and sometimes even intimidate to get things done. One of Lyndon's most notable achievements in the Senate was his work on civil rights legislation. Despite the deeply entrenched resistance to civil rights in Congress, Lyndon made it his mission to push forward with legislation that would end segregation and discrimination. His efforts culminated in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1957, the first civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. It was a testament to Lyndon's skill as a legislator and his commitment to justice and equality. Lyndon's leadership in the Senate was not without controversy. His aggressive tactics and desire for control earned him both admiration and criticism. However, there was no denying his effectiveness. Under his leadership, the Senate became a more efficient and productive body, passing a wide range of legislation that addressed the pressing issues of the time. Lyndon's time as Master of the Senate was a defining period in his political career. It showcased his unparalleled political skills, his vision for America, and his unwavering commitment to public service. Lyndon's legacy in the Senate was marked by significant legislative achievements and a style of leadership that would influence generations of lawmakers. As Lyndon's influence in the Senate reached its peak, he began to eye a higher goal, the presidency. The skills and relationships he had developed in the Senate would prove invaluable in his quest for the White House. His mastery of the Senate was not just a chapter in his career, it was the foundation for his future ambitions and his vision for the country. Lyndon B. Johnson's journey from a young congressman to the master of the Senate is a story of ambition, determination, and political acumen. It is a reminder of the power of leadership and the impact one individual can have on the course of history. As Lyndon looked towards the future, his experiences in the Senate would guide him in the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. Chapter 7: Vice Presidency. Lyndon B. Johnson's journey to the vice presidency was a turning point in his storied career. After mastering the intricacies of the Senate, Lyndon faced a new challenge that would test his skills and resolve in unforeseen ways. The vice presidency under President John F. Kennedy offered Lyndon a unique vantage point from which to influence the nation, albeit in a role that was markedly different from his previous positions of power. The decision to accept the vice presidential nomination was not straightforward for Lyndon. Known for his ambition and his dominant presence in the Senate, transitioning to a role traditionally seen as less influential was a significant change. However, Lyndon saw the vice presidency as a platform to continue his lifelong commitment to public service and to support the young and charismatic President Kennedy in shaping a new vision for America. The early days of Lyndon's vice presidency were marked by adjustment and learning. Accustomed to the direct power of legislative leadership, Lyndon found the vice presidency to be constrained, with fewer opportunities to directly influence policy. Yet, Lyndon's resilience and adaptability shone through as he sought ways to contribute to the administration's goals. Lyndon took on a range of assignments from President Kennedy, from representing the United States on the international stage to engaging with key domestic issues. One of his significant roles was overseeing the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, where he played a pivotal part in advancing the United States space exploration efforts during the height of the space race with the Soviet Union. Lyndon's leadership helped to galvanize support for the space program, culminating in the historic achievements that would eventually lead to the moon landing. Despite these contributions, Lyndon's tenure as vice president was not without its challenges. He often found himself on the periphery of Kennedy's inner circle, a shift from his previous role as a central figure in decision-making processes. This period tested Lyndon's patience and political acumen as he navigated his role within the administration, striving to maintain his influence and continue his work for the American people. The dynamics of Lyndon's relationship with President Kennedy and his advisors were complex. While respectful of the president, Lyndon occasionally felt sidelined, missing the direct engagement with policy and legislation he had enjoyed in the Senate. Nevertheless, Lyndon remained a loyal vice president, supporting Kennedy's agenda and working diligently to promote the administration's priorities, both at home and abroad. The most defining moment of Lyndon's vice presidency came on November 22, 1963, with the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Texas. This tragedy thrust Lyndon into the presidency, an unforeseen and sudden transition that would change the course of his life and the future of the nation. The weight of this moment cannot be overstated, as Lyndon was sworn in as the 36th President of the United States aboard Air Force One, with the eyes of a grieving nation upon him. Lyndon's vice presidency was a time of significant personal and professional growth. It was a period that prepared him for the immense responsibilities he would face as president. His experiences as vice president, both the triumphs and the trials, shaped his approach to leadership and his vision for the country. Chapter 8: The Tragedy in Dallas. November 22nd, 1963, started as a day full of promise for Lyndon B. Johnson, the Vice President of the United States. He was in Dallas, Texas with President John F. Kennedy on a trip meant to mend political fences and gather support for the upcoming election. The sun was shining bright in Dallas, reflecting the hopeful spirit of the president and his team. Little did anyone know that this day would end in a tragedy that would change America forever. The presidential motorcade, a long line of cars carrying the president, his wife Jackie Kennedy, Vice President Johnson, and many others, moved slowly through the cheering crowds in Dallas. People had gathered in large numbers to catch a glimpse of their charismatic president. The atmosphere was vibrant, filled with excitement and admiration for President Kennedy. As the motorcade entered Dealey Plaza, a series of loud, shocking sounds broke the air. At first, some thought they were fireworks, part of the celebration. But the harsh reality soon set in. Those were gunshots. In a matter of seconds, joy turned into horror. President Kennedy had been shot. The motorcade rushed out of Dealey Plaza, speeding towards Parkland Memorial Hospital. The cars carried a gravely wounded president and a nation's shattered dreams. Lyndon B. Johnson, who was a few cars back when the shooting happened, was quickly secured by the Secret Service. Confusion and fear were palpable among everyone as they tried to grasp the enormity of what had just occurred. At the hospital, the grim news was confirmed. President John F. Kennedy was pronounced dead. The loss was devastating, a wound to the heart of America and to all who believed in Kennedy's vision for the country. In that moment, Lyndon B. Johnson faced the monumental task of stepping up to lead a nation in mourning. The transition of power had to be swift and unambiguous to reassure a shocked and grieving nation. Thus, aboard Air Force One, the plane that carried them to Dallas but was now taking them back to Washington, D.C., Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as the 36th President of the United States. The ceremony was simple yet profound, with Johnson taking the oath of office standing next to a somber Jackie Kennedy, who was still wearing her pink suit stained with her husband's blood. This image, captured in black and white photographs, became a symbol of one of the darkest days in American history. It marked the beginning of Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency under the most challenging circumstances imaginable. He was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation and the expectations resting on his shoulders. Johnson knew he had to unite a nation in grief and lead them forward. The tragedy in Dallas was not just an assassination of a president. It was an event that tested the resilience of American democracy. It reminded everyone of the fragility of peace and the importance of leadership during times of crisis. For Lyndon B. Johnson, it was the start of his unexpected presidency, a role he had not sought at that moment, but was prepared to take on with all the strength and dedication he could muster. In the days and weeks that followed, President Johnson addressed the nation, calling for unity and for the continuation of Kennedy's vision. He urged Americans to come together, to heal, and to work towards a better future. Johnson's leadership during this critical time helped steady a nation rocked by loss and uncertainty. The tragedy in Dallas would forever be a defining moment in Lyndon B. Johnson's life and presidency. It thrust him into the spotlight at a time of national crisis, challenging him to lead with compassion, resolve, and vision. This chapter in American history is a poignant reminder of the unpredictability of life and the enduring strength of the human spirit to overcome adversity. As we reflect on the events of November 22, 1963, We remember not only the loss of a beloved president, but also the emergence of a new leader who faced the daunting task of guiding a nation through its darkest hours. Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency began in the shadow of tragedy, but it would go on to be marked by significant achievements and challenges that would shape the course of America's future. Chapter 9: The Great Society. Lyndon B. Johnson, now President of the United States after the tragedy in Dallas, had a vision. He dreamed of a great society, a bold and ambitious plan to improve the life of every American. This vision was more than just words. It was a call to action for change, to build a better, more just, and more prosperous country for all. The Great Society aimed to tackle the nation's biggest problems. President Johnson believed that a great country like the United States could and should eliminate poverty, improve education, protect the environment, and ensure justice for every citizen, regardless of their background or color. One of the first steps in building the Great Society was fighting poverty. Johnson knew that too many Americans lived without enough food, decent housing, or hope for a better future. He introduced programs like Medicare and Medicaid to help older Americans and those with low incomes afford medical care. He also created programs to bring jobs and training to the poor, helping them to stand on their own feet. Education was another cornerstone of the Great Society. Johnson believed that education was the key to unlocking the door to a better life. He introduced the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which provided federal funds for schools, especially those in poor areas. This act was groundbreaking because it recognized the government's role in ensuring every child had access to quality education. The environment was also a significant concern for Johnson. He saw the pollution of air and water as threats to the health and beauty of America. Under his leadership, laws were passed to clean the air, make the water safe to drink, and protect the natural landscapes that made America beautiful. These actions laid the groundwork for the environmental movement that would grow in the years to come. Civil rights were at the heart of the Great Society. Johnson believed that America could never be truly great if any of its citizens were denied their rights because of their skin color. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were monumental achievements of his presidency. They outlawed segregation and discrimination, ensuring that all Americans, regardless of race, had the right to vote and access to public spaces. Johnson's vision for the Great Society was grand, and it required a lot of work to turn it into reality. He used his political skills, honed in the Senate, to persuade, negotiate, and sometimes push hard to get Congress to pass these laws. His efforts were often successful, leading to a period of significant legislative achievement. However, the Great Society faced challenges. Not everyone agreed with Johnson's approach. Some thought the government was doing too much and feared the growing costs of these programs. Others felt the changes did not go far enough to address the deep inequalities in American society. And as the Vietnam War escalated, more and more resources were diverted away from domestic programs, making it harder to achieve all of Johnson's goals. Despite these challenges, the Great Society left a lasting legacy. Many of the programs and laws that Johnson introduced have become an integral part of American society, shaping the nation in important ways. Medicare and Medicaid have provided essential health care to millions. Educational reforms have opened up opportunities for countless children. Environmental protections have preserved natural treasures for future generations. And the civil rights legislation has moved the country closer to its founding promise of equality for all. President Lyndon B. Johnson's vision of the Great Society was ambitious, aiming to transform America into a place where the wealth was shared. The old and the sick were cared for, the environment was protected, and every person's rights were respected. While not all of his goals were fully realized, his presidency marked a significant shift in how Americans viewed their government's role in addressing social issues. The story of the Great Society is a testament to the power of vision and leadership in driving change. It reminds us that with determination and collective effort, it is possible to confront the challenges of the times and work toward a better future. Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society remains a pivotal chapter in American history, a period of profound change that has shaped the nation's path toward justice, equality, and prosperity for all its citizens. Chapter 10: Civil Rights Champion. Lyndon B. Johnson took the presidency during a time when America was deeply divided by issues of race and equality. Despite the challenges, he emerged as a champion of civil rights, using his position to make significant strides toward ending segregation and discrimination in the United States. Johnson's journey as a civil rights leader was marked by bold decisions and groundbreaking legislation. His commitment to civil rights was partly influenced by his early experiences as a teacher in Cotulla, Texas, where he saw the harsh realities of poverty and racial discrimination faced by his Mexican-American students. These experiences left a lasting impression on Johnson, fueling his determination to fight for equality and justice. One of Johnson's most significant achievements in civil rights was the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This landmark legislation was one of the most comprehensive civil rights laws in American history. It aimed to end segregation in public places, banned employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, and enforced the desegregation of schools. This act marked a turning point in the struggle for civil rights, signaling a new era of equality. Getting the Civil Rights Act passed was not easy. Johnson faced strong opposition from some members of Congress, particularly from the South, who were determined to maintain segregation. However, Johnson was a masterful politician with a deep understanding of the legislative process. He used his skills to persuade, negotiate, and sometimes pressure lawmakers into supporting the bill. His efforts were successful, and the Civil Rights Act became law, changing the landscape of American society. Following the Civil Rights Act, Johnson didn't stop there. He continued his fight for civil rights with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. This important law aimed to overcome legal barriers at the state and local levels that prevented African Americans from exercising their right to vote as guaranteed under the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The Voting Rights Act was a critical step in ensuring that all Americans, regardless of race, had a voice in their government. It significantly increased voter registration in the South, transforming the political landscape and empowering African American communities. Johnson's commitment to civil rights also extended to economic justice. He believed that true equality could not be achieved without addressing the economic disparities that affected minority communities. As part of his Great Society programs, Johnson introduced measures to combat poverty, improve education, and provide better housing opportunities for all Americans, regardless of their race. Despite his achievements, Johnson's presidency was not without controversy. His policies and the Vietnam War polarized public opinion, and he faced criticism from both supporters and opponents of civil rights. Nevertheless, Johnson's legacy as a civil rights champion is undeniable. He took up the mantle of civil rights at a crucial moment in history and pushed through legislation that forever changed America. Johnson's leadership in civil rights demonstrated his belief in the power of government to enact positive change. He once said, "We believe that all men have certain unalienable rights, yet many Americans do not enjoy those rights." Johnson worked tirelessly to ensure that the ideals of freedom and equality were not just words in the Constitution, but realities for all Americans. The impact of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 continues to be felt today. These laws paved the way for further civil rights advancements and inspired generations to continue the fight for equality. Lyndon B. Johnson's role as a civil rights champion is a testament to his vision and courage, qualities that enabled him to transform the nation for the better. Chapter 11. War on Poverty. Lyndon B. Johnson, after becoming president, embarked on a mission to transform America into a great society. A central part of this vision was his war on poverty. Johnson believed that in a country as wealthy as the United States, no one should live in poverty. He aimed to create programs that would help lift Americans out of poor conditions and ensure they had access to the basic needs of life. The war on poverty was not just about financial aid. It was about giving people the tools to help themselves. Johnson's goal was to make America a place where everyone had the opportunity to succeed, regardless of their background. One of the first steps in this war was the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964. This groundbreaking legislation created many programs to help fight poverty. One such program was Job Corps, designed to provide young people with job training and education so they could find good jobs and support themselves. Another was Head Start, which gave young children from low-income families a chance to start school ready to learn, with preschool programs that helped them develop the skills they needed. Johnson also focused on health and nutrition. He expanded the food stamp program to reach more families, ensuring they had enough to eat. Medicare and Medicaid were introduced to help older adults and people with low incomes afford medical care. These programs were revolutionary because, for the first time, the government was taking a direct role in helping to ensure the health and well-being of its citizens. The war on poverty also aimed to improve living conditions. The Housing and Urban Development Act created new housing opportunities for low-income families and helped to build better communities. The idea was to not just give people homes, but to create environments where they could thrive. Education was another critical area. The Higher Education Act made college more accessible to students from all backgrounds by providing financial aid like grants and loans. Johnson believed that education was the key to overcoming poverty, as it opened the door to better job opportunities and a brighter future. Despite these efforts, Johnson's war on poverty faced significant challenges. Some people criticized the programs for being too costly and said they made people dependent on government assistance. Others argued that the programs did not go far enough to address the root causes of poverty. Moreover, as the Vietnam War escalated, more and more of the government's resources were diverted away from domestic programs, including those designed to fight poverty. This made it difficult to fully achieve the goals of the war on poverty. However, Johnson's programs made a significant impact. Millions of Americans were lifted out of poverty, and the programs laid the groundwork for future efforts to help those in need. Today, many of Johnson's initiatives, such as Medicare, Medicaid, and Head Start, are still in place, continuing to serve Americans. The War on Poverty demonstrated Johnson's belief in the power of government to change lives for the better. He was committed to ensuring that the wealth and prosperity of America were shared by all its citizens, not just a privileged few. His efforts showed that while the fight against poverty is challenging, it is possible to make a difference with dedication and the right policies. Johnson's War on Poverty is a testament to his vision of a great society. It reflects his deep compassion for the less fortunate and his belief in the American ideal that everyone deserves a chance to succeed. While not all of his ambitions were fully realized and the battle against poverty continues, Johnson's legacy includes a profound commitment to improving the lives of countless individuals and families. Chapter 12. Vietnam War Escalation. Lyndon B. Johnson, the president who dreamed of a great society, faced a significant challenge that would define much of his presidency: the Vietnam War. This chapter explores how the conflict in Vietnam escalated under Johnson's leadership and the impact it had on both his presidency and the United States. The Vietnam War began before Johnson took office, but it escalated rapidly during his presidency. The war was rooted in the desire of the Vietnamese people to be free from foreign control, first fighting against colonial rule by France, and then against the influence of communist North Vietnam. The United States, fearing the spread of communism in Southeast Asia, supported South Vietnam. When Johnson became president, he inherited a complex and growing conflict. He believed that the United States had to stand firm in Vietnam to protect its interests and prevent the spread of communism. This belief led to a significant increase in U.S. military involvement under his administration. In August 1964, after reports of attacks on U.S. ships in the Gulf of Tonkin, Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. This resolution gave Johnson broad authority to increase U.S. military involvement in Vietnam. Johnson saw this as necessary to support South Vietnam and prevent the spread of communism, but it marked the beginning of a massive escalation of the war. The number of U.S. troops in Vietnam grew rapidly. From a few thousand advisors at the start of his presidency, the number of American soldiers in Vietnam would grow to over 500,000. This escalation was not without controversy. Many Americans supported the effort, believing in the need to fight communism. However, as the war dragged on, more and more people began to question its purpose and the high cost in lives and resources. One of the most challenging aspects of the Vietnam War was its complexity. The Viet Cong, communist fighters from South Vietnam, used guerrilla tactics, making it difficult for American and South Vietnamese forces to combat them effectively. The dense jungles of Vietnam provided cover for the Viet Cong, complicating U.S. military efforts. Despite superior military strength, the United States found it challenging to secure a decisive victory. The war's impact on American society was profound. It was the first war that was extensively covered on television, bringing the realities of conflict into American homes. Images of battles, wounded soldiers, and civilian casualties raised public concern and led to growing anti-war sentiment. Protests against the Vietnam War became a significant part of the 1960s social and political landscape, reflecting deep divisions within the country. As the war continued, the cost in human lives and the financial burden on the United States increased. The war claimed the lives of tens of thousands of American soldiers and millions of Vietnamese people. The financial cost of the war also diverted resources from Johnson's Great Society programs, limiting their effectiveness and reach. Johnson's presidency was deeply affected by the Vietnam War. Despite his significant achievements in civil rights and social welfare, the war overshadowed much of his presidency. The increasing unpopularity of the war contributed to Johnson's decision not to seek re-election in 1968. He announced this decision in a televised address to the nation, shocking many Americans and marking a dramatic end to his pursuit of a second term. The escalation of the Vietnam War under Johnson's leadership remains a controversial chapter in American history. It reflects the complexities of Cold War politics, the challenges of military intervention in foreign conflicts, and the profound impact of war on society. Johnson's handling of the Vietnam War has been debated by historians, with some criticizing his decisions and others acknowledging the difficult situation he inherited. In this chapter, we explored the escalation of the Vietnam War during Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency. The war's impact on America and Johnson's legacy was significant, highlighting the challenges of leadership during a time of conflict and change. The Vietnam War not only shaped the course of Johnson's presidency, but also left a lasting mark on American history, influencing how future conflicts would be viewed and approached. Chapter 13: Tumultuous Times. The presidency of Lyndon B. Johnson was a period of great ambition and profound change, marked by significant achievements and considerable challenges. However, the mid to late 1960s were also tumultuous times in America, characterized by social unrest, political upheaval, and a nation deeply divided over the Vietnam War and civil rights issues. During these years, America witnessed some of the most significant and turbulent events in its history. The civil rights movement, which had been gaining momentum throughout the early 1960s, continued to fight for equal rights and justice for African Americans. Despite the passage of landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, racial tensions remained high. Cities across the nation experienced riots and protests as African Americans and their allies demanded an end to discrimination and inequality. The Vietnam War also played a central role in the tumultuous times of Johnson's presidency. As the war escalated and the number of American casualties increased, public opinion began to turn against the conflict. The war became deeply unpopular, sparking widespread protests, especially among young Americans. College campuses became hotbeds of anti-war activism, with students organizing marches, sit-ins, and demonstrations to express their opposition to the war. The anti-war movement questioned the morality and necessity of the conflict, leading to a broader debate about America's role in the world and the power of its government. Another aspect of the tumultuous times was the cultural revolution that took place during the 1960s. This period saw a significant shift in social norms and values, with movements advocating for peace, love, and freedom. Challenging the status quo, the counterculture, embodied by the hippie movement, promoted alternative lifestyles and protested against societal constraints and the Vietnam War. Music, art, and literature from this period reflected the nation's tumultuous mood, with artists and musicians becoming voices of protest and change. The assassinations of key figures during this period added to the sense of turmoil and loss. The nation was still reeling from the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963, when it faced the murders of Martin Luther King Jr. in April 1968, and Robert F. Kennedy in June 1968. These tragic events shocked the country, leading to mourning and outrage. The assassinations underscored the deep divisions and conflicts within American society, highlighting the urgent need for reconciliation and peace. Amidst these challenges, President Johnson faced the difficult task of leading a nation divided. His vision for a great society was challenged by the realities of the Vietnam War and social unrest. The war consumed much of Johnson's attention and resources, which he had hoped to devote to domestic programs aimed at eliminating poverty and racial injustice. The widespread protests and riots, often met with police violence, further strained the nation's unity and tested Johnson's leadership. Despite these difficulties, Johnson remained committed to his goals. He continued to push for social reforms and worked to address the issues causing division and unrest. However, the growing discontent with the Vietnam War and the pace of social change led to a decline in his popularity. By 1968, facing mounting criticism and realizing the toll his presidency had taken on his health and personal life, Johnson made the stunning decision not to seek re-election, announcing his withdrawal in a televised address to the nation. The tumultuous times of the 1960s were a period of transformation and conflict in America. They were years of progress and pain, of aspiration and despair. Through it all, Lyndon B. Johnson sought to lead a nation through its trials, striving to uphold the ideals of democracy and equality. His presidency was marked by both significant achievements and profound challenges, reflecting the complexities of governing during one of the most turbulent periods in American history. Chapter 14. Not Seeking Re-election. In the late 1960s, President Lyndon B. Johnson faced one of the most difficult decisions of his political career. After years of serving his country, first in Congress, then as vice president, and finally as president, Johnson found himself at a crossroads. The United States was deeply embroiled in the Vietnam War, a conflict that had become increasingly unpopular at home. At the same time, the country was experiencing significant social and political upheaval, with widespread protests against the war, demands for civil rights, and calls for social reform. Amidst this turbulent backdrop, Johnson made a shocking announcement that would mark a turning point in American history. He would not seek re-election for the presidency. The decision not to run for another term was both personal and political for Johnson. By 1968, the Vietnam War had escalated under his watch, with thousands of American soldiers and countless Vietnamese civilians losing their lives. The war had also taken a toll on the American psyche, dividing the nation and leading to massive protests. Johnson, who had once envisioned his presidency as a time to build a great society focused on eliminating poverty and racial injustice, found his administration increasingly consumed by the war. The conflict overshadowed his domestic achievements, and Johnson's popularity plummeted. Moreover, the personal toll on Johnson was significant. The weight of the presidency, the criticism he faced over the war, and the internal divisions within his own political party had left him exhausted and disillusioned. Johnson, a man who had spent much of his life in public service, was deeply affected by the negative turn in public opinion. He felt that the division and unrest in the country were partly a reflection of his leadership, and he questioned whether he was the right person to lead the nation forward. On March 31st, 1968, Johnson addressed the nation in a televised speech. The speech was expected to be an update on the Vietnam War and his plans for the upcoming election. However, it concluded with words that stunned Americans. "I shall not seek, and I will not accept, the nomination of my party for another term as your president." This announcement came as a surprise to the American public and the political world. Johnson's decision not to run for re-election opened the door for new leadership and set the stage for one of the most tumultuous presidential elections in American history. Johnson's announcement was met with a mix of shock, relief, and speculation. Some saw it as a noble act of self-sacrifice, with Johnson stepping aside for the good of the country. Others interpreted it as an acknowledgement of his declining popularity and the unwinnability of the Vietnam War. Regardless of the interpretation, Johnson's decision not to seek re-election had a profound impact on the political landscape. It signaled a shift in American politics and marked the end of an era defined by ambitious social programs and deep national division. In the remaining months of his presidency, Johnson focused on trying to secure peace in Vietnam and solidify his legacy in domestic affairs. He worked tirelessly to negotiate a peace settlement, though a resolution would not be reached until after he left office. Domestically, he continued to advocate for civil rights and the programs of his great society, hoping to leave behind a record of progress and compassion. Lyndon B. Johnson's decision not to seek re-election reflects the complexities of leadership during one of the most turbulent periods in American history. It was a decision shaped by the realities of war, the demands of the presidency, and the deep divisions within American society. Johnson's choice to step aside remains a significant moment in the narrative of his presidency, illustrating the personal and political challenges of leading a nation through change and conflict. Chapter 15: Legacy and Retirement. After announcing his decision not to seek re-election, President Lyndon B. Johnson's final months in office were a period of reflection and continued effort. He had navigated the United States through some of its most tumultuous times, including significant advancements in civil rights and the deepening quagmire of the Vietnam War. As he prepared to leave the White House, Johnson pondered his legacy and looked forward to a quieter life back in Texas. Lyndon B. Johnson returned to his ranch in Texas, a place that had always been a source of solace and grounding for him throughout his political career. Retirement for Johnson, however, was not merely a retreat into private life. He remained deeply interested in national affairs and the ongoing impact of his Great Society programs. Johnson's post-presidency years allowed him time to reflect on his tenure, the decisions he made, and the tumultuous era over which he presided. One of Johnson's most enduring legacies is his contribution to civil rights. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were landmark achievements that transformed American society. These pieces of legislation helped dismantle legal segregation and ensured that voting rights were extended to all Americans, regardless of race. Johnson's efforts in this area marked a significant step forward in the nation's journey toward equality, and his leadership during this critical period is often celebrated as one of his greatest achievements. Another key aspect of Johnson's legacy is his war on poverty. Initiatives like Medicare, Medicaid, the Economic Opportunity Act, and various education programs aimed to uplift Americans from poverty and improve the quality of life for millions. These programs had a lasting impact, creating a safety net for the vulnerable and laying the groundwork for future social welfare efforts. However, Johnson's presidency was also marked by the Vietnam War, an issue that profoundly affected his legacy. The escalation of the conflict and the subsequent loss of American and Vietnamese lives remain controversial aspects of his tenure. The war not only shaped public perception of Johnson, but also influenced his decision not to seek re-election. The complexities of the Vietnam War and its impact on American society continue to be a topic of discussion and analysis, highlighting the challenges Johnson faced in foreign policy and military engagement. In retirement, Johnson took on the role of an elder statesman, offering advice when sought and reflecting on his years of public service. He dedicated time to the LBJ Library and Museum, located at the University of Texas in Austin, which he hoped would serve as a center for research and education on his presidency and the issues he cared deeply about. Johnson saw the library as a way to continue his commitment to public service and education, even after his departure from public life. Johnson's health, however, began to decline in the years following his presidency. The stress and demands of his years in office took a toll, and he suffered from heart problems. On January 22, 1973, Lyndon B. Johnson passed away at his ranch at the age of 64. His passing was mourned across the nation, and he was remembered as a president who sought to make America a more just and equitable society. In the years since his death, Johnson's legacy has been re-evaluated and appreciated in new ways. While the Vietnam War remains a significant and often criticized part of his presidency, his domestic achievements, especially in civil rights and social welfare, have gained recognition for their positive impact on American society. Johnson's vision of a great society, where all citizens have the opportunity to achieve their potential, continues to inspire discussions about the role of government in addressing social and economic challenges. As we conclude this chapter on Lyndon B. Johnson's legacy and retirement, it is clear that his presidency was a time of significant change for the United States. Johnson's efforts to create a more just and equitable society, his leadership during a period of civil unrest and war, and his complex legacy continue to shape our understanding of American history. Johnson's story is a reminder of the power of leadership and the impact of public service on the nation's course. Chapter 16. A Nation Reflects. As time passed since Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency, the United States has had the opportunity to reflect on his time in office, considering both the immediate impact of his policies and their long-term implications for American society. Johnson's presidency, defined by significant achievements and considerable challenges, remains a subject of debate and analysis, offering lessons on leadership, policy-making, and the complexities of governing a diverse and changing nation. Lyndon B. Johnson's vision for a great society aimed at eliminating poverty, promoting equality, and improving the quality of life for all Americans. His commitment to civil rights led to the passage of groundbreaking legislation, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. These laws marked a turning point in the nation's journey towards civil rights and social justice, dismantling legal segregation, and ensuring that voting rights were protected. Johnson's efforts in this area have been widely recognized and praised, underscoring his role as a pivotal figure in the civil rights movement. The war on poverty, introduced under Johnson's administration, initiated a range of social programs designed to assist the poor, improve education, and provide health care for the elderly and the needy. Programs like Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start, and Job Corps have had a lasting impact, creating a safety net for millions of Americans and reflecting Johnson's belief in the government's role in addressing social and economic challenges. However, Johnson's presidency was also marked by the Vietnam War, a conflict that deeply divided the nation and had a profound impact on American society and politics. The escalation of the war under Johnson's leadership and the resulting human and financial costs have been subjects of criticism. The war's unpopularity contributed to Johnson's decision not to seek re-election, highlighting the challenges of making decisions in complex international contexts. The social and cultural changes of the 1960s further complicated Johnson's presidency. The era was characterized by a push for social reform, a questioning of traditional values, and a demand for greater freedoms. These changes, coupled with opposition to the Vietnam War, created a climate of unrest and protest that defined much of Johnson's time in office. Johnson's ability to navigate these tumultuous times, balancing his ambitious domestic agenda with the realities of war and social change, is a testament to his skills as a leader. In reflecting on Johnson's legacy, it is essential to consider the broader context of his presidency. Johnson took office during a period of significant change, with the nation grappling with issues of race, poverty, and war. His leadership during this time, characterized by bold ambitions and significant challenges, has left a complex legacy that continues to influence American politics and society. Today, Johnson is remembered for his contributions to civil rights and social welfare, as well as for the challenges of the Vietnam War. His presidency offers valuable lessons on the power of government to effect positive change, the importance of leadership in times of crisis, and the complexities of addressing social and political issues in a diverse and changing nation. As the nation reflects on Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency, it is clear that his impact on American history is significant and multifaceted. His vision for a great society, his efforts to promote civil rights and social justice, and his leadership during a period of national and international turmoil have shaped the course of the nation's history. Johnson's legacy, with its achievements and controversies, encourages ongoing reflection and discussion about the role of leadership in achieving social and political change. Chapter 17. The Last Days. The final chapter in the life of Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th President of the United States, is a story of reflection, legacy, and the inevitable passage of time. After announcing he would not seek re-election, Johnson retired to his beloved ranch in Texas. There, amidst the quiet landscapes that had shaped his early years, Johnson entered the last phase of his life. Returning to his roots allowed Johnson some peace and a chance to reflect on his tumultuous yet impactful presidency. Despite the serenity of his surroundings, the weight of his years in public service lingered. The Vietnam War, civil rights struggles, and the monumental efforts to create a great society had taken their toll on Johnson's health and spirit. Johnson's retirement years were marked by both personal fulfillment and ongoing health challenges. He took great pride in the Lyndon B. Johnson Library and Museum, which opened in 1971 on the campus of the University of Texas in Austin. The library served not only as a repository for his presidential papers, but also as a place for study and reflection on the significant issues he had faced during his administration, including civil rights, social reform, and the complexities of the Vietnam War. Despite his retreat from public life, Johnson remained interested in national affairs, offering advice to his successors and pondering the future direction of the country he had served. He stayed in touch with political allies and adversaries alike, never fully stepping away from the world of politics that had been his life's work. However, Johnson's health, which had been deteriorating due to years of stress and a heart condition, became a growing concern. His love for his ranch and the Texas Hill Country provided some comfort and joy in his final years, but his physical decline was evident. Johnson, once a towering figure in American politics, found his activities increasingly limited by his weakening heart. On January 22, 1973, Lyndon B. Johnson passed away at his ranch at the age of 64, leaving behind a complex legacy. His sudden death from a heart attack shocked the nation and brought an outpouring of tributes from around the world. Johnson was laid to rest in his family cemetery on the ranch property, close to the land that had shaped him and amidst the people he had loved. Johnson's passing prompted a national reflection on his contributions to American society. His presidency had been a time of significant achievement and profound controversy. Under his leadership, America made strides toward realizing its ideals of justice and equality through the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. His war on poverty and efforts to create a great society aimed at lifting Americans out of poverty and ensuring access to basic needs and rights. Yet, the Vietnam War's shadow loomed large, a conflict that deeply divided the nation and complicated his legacy. As historians and citizens alike have continued to assess Johnson's impact, there is a growing appreciation for his ambitious domestic agenda and his commitment to civil rights. His vision of a great society where all Americans could share in the nation's prosperity and live free from discrimination and poverty remains influential. In the years since Johnson's death, the Lyndon B. Johnson Library and Museum has become a place of learning and reflection, drawing visitors interested in the tumultuous 1960s and Johnson's role in shaping modern America. The library's exhibits and programs offer insights into the challenges and achievements of his presidency, encouraging a deeper understanding of a pivotal period in American history. The last days of Lyndon B. Johnson's life were a time of personal reflection and historical significance. As the nation mourned his passing, it also began to reassess his tenure in the White House, recognizing the complexity of his legacy. Johnson's efforts to transform American society through legislation and leadership have had a lasting impact, contributing to the ongoing pursuit of equality and justice.